Now our second to last story is an odd one. So apparently the producer, John Landau, Landau, gonna go with Landau, told film news website CinemaBlend. So he was doing an interview and he told them that, and this was Monday, so this past Monday. So this article is from the 3rd, currently recording this on the 4th. So apparently he told, and this was in regards to, he was having an interview, and the Alita Battle Angel came up, which if you guys don't know is a live action adaptation of an anime manga, and also became a video game that I don't believe we got, or we got one of them and the production run was very, very low. Either way, it was for the PS1. Point is that live action film actually did pretty well from what I remember. I don't believe it did crazy well. I'm going to look that up right now, but I didn't see it myself because I'm not familiar with the source material, but which means that for me personally I probably should have seen it, so I wouldn't have any bias going into it. But either way though, I heard that it did pretty well. I mean, people liked it. Okay, so its budget was 170 million. Its box office was 404.9 million. The question though is, of course, is that how much was their marketing budget, and how much was how much of that 404 million is international versus domestic. Okay, so looking at its domestic versus international, it's kind of a little iffy because domestically it made 85 million. Now, to you and I, the people who don't have millions of dollars, that sounds amazing because it is. But the fact that the movie actually, its budget was 170 million, and that's not taking into account marketing, I believe, I would argue it underperformed. Now, internationally did very well. So you would think that would potentially push it towards a sequel, especially if it did well either digitally or on demand in some way. However, what we have now, because of course Fox was bought out by Disney, specifically its film division, not its news division. Very important to always remember that. But its film division was bought out by Disney. Technically, Alita Battle Angel is under the Disney banner. Now, not specifically Disney itself, like it's going to be on Disney Plus, but it is under the general Disney banner. So, back to producer John Landau, he said that fans of the movie should, quote-unquote, keep peppering our family now at Disney and let them know how important it is to have another Alita movie, and hopefully we'll venture there one day. And then he also went on to say that James Cameron, the director, had plotted out 2 additional stories of where we would go very specifically. So, look, this is my speculation from here on in, but I want to say that if the producer is telling us, the fans, to try to talk to Disney to make this happen, wow, they're fucked. Now let me, and you guys might be confused. Oh, fucked, is that an industry term? It is an industry insider term. So I'm sorry to get inside baseball with some of you guys, but yeah, it's here's the thing. So I feel as, and it's weird because I'm not saying Disney can't potentially make, I mean, I don't know how dark the first movie was, if it can't go on the Disney Plus service, or if it can't be something for, I don't know, it's just weird because Disney has put out live action movies that have been a bit quote unquote darker compared to their animated counterparts. So there's not like a reason why they couldn't put this movie out. But if they're looking at it by the numbers, unless there are some numbers that we're not privy to behind the scenes that have, where it's made more money, 400 million worldwide simply sadly doesn't cut it. Now some of you guys might be confused by that because again, their budget was 170 million. So 170 million put against 404 million, you think, well, 404 million is obviously like bigger. Duh. No shit, man. Which is true. You're right. It is a no shit thing from the outside looking in. But sadly, international numbers, not that they're meaningless, but you have to take those numbers and think of a huge cut that gets in there, because when you look at domestic numbers, yes, you'll have some theaters take a bit of a cut as well, but when you look internationally, it is a much bigger cut and a much bigger piece of the pie for them. So even though it says that it grossed 404 million, that doesn't necessarily mean that they made all of that back. and that is very relevant. So we really don't know how much money this movie made, but we do know that critically, I don't know about critically, but I know that fan wise, people did not shit on this. From what I've heard, people were pleasantly surprised. Some who are fans of the anime manga, some who aren't. So it's very interesting. But again, I do think that this might be a movie that sadly, because it's not, a Disney property that they got back, because it did not perform as well in the box office, it's not something that's going to be easily picked up. And it's sad, but it just is the case. Now, if Netflix or if some other streaming services maybe kind of see if they're like, hey, could we license this from you, maybe put in a bid in some way, and Disney goes, because I think that would make Disney go, oh wow, there's interest in this, not just us, which is, again, it's so weird that we would have to, I say we as fans, even though I'm not personally a fan, as I mentioned earlier, but we as fans would have to talk to Disney about this. But crazier things have happened. Films have been, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but there have been films that, some have drummed up interest from fan bases on, social media, just specifically the writing letters, things like that. It has happened a bit. Things have changed. I mean, it's good to have your voice heard, but I don't know if, even if there are enough people to say, hey, Disney, we want another movie. The biggest issue, the biggest concern always is, does that equal a profit? And I say this specifically because let's look at something like Case Closed. If you're a fan of anime, you've probably heard of Case Closed, or as it's known in Japan as Detective Conan. If you guys haven't heard of it, I'm not going to go too into it. I've done that before on the show. It would take too long. Either way, it is an anime manga that's been going on for over 20 years now. And obviously, anytime you jump into it, unless it's one in the first, few years, it's formative years, you're going to have a hard time putting them out on DVD because, people are going to want them, but they've probably been following it as a fan for a while now, even if it wasn't done officially. So now they want the newest either episode or the newest volume or the newest chapter, and you have to be starting from the beginning legally. A streaming service could potentially start from whenever they want to, but of course that segments and stops fans who are like myself, who maybe don't know too much about it. I do know a lot about Case Closed, a fair amount rather, but I do know about it, but I want to go back and watch it, and I can't because the streaming service doesn't have episode 1. They only have episode 700 to 800 or something like that. And yes, Case Closed has been going on for a very long time now. Point being, though, is that it was licensed by Funimation for a while. And Funimation, because it's, and especially, funnily enough, at the time, they were actually releasing 4-episode DVDs because that actually was normal back then. Crazy thing about that now. But either way, so Funimation was licensing it, and it's very popular in Japan. So I assume that the licensing cost, I'm not privy to that knowledge, but I'm assuming it's pretty darn high. So they were not getting the returns that they wanted, and sadly they stopped licensing the show after 5 seasons. They released a lot of movies trying to maybe drum up hype that way, but sadly, I don't know if they sold well, but it's not well enough to make them feel comfortable in renewing their license for more seasons. Well, actually, they've renewed their license for the first 5, strangely. They still have the license, I believe, but they don't have licenses for 6 and upward. Now, when asked why Funimation? Why would you not release any more? They mentioned, if fan fervor actually translated the sales, then we would still be releasing Case Closed. I don't remember if that was specifically in an interview or if it was done a bit behind the scenes or if it was done in a Q&A at a con, but either way, it is still very relevant because you can have 5 million people say, hey, Disney, we want Alita Battle Angel to get a sequel. You can have 10 million, you can have 15, 20 million, right? You can have so many people that when you calculate the numbers, you're like, wow, Alita Battle Angel could make $1 billion at the box office. But guess what? Are they going to go see the movie? Unless you're selling that fervor as pre-order tickets, right? Well, hey, you care about it? Well, then pre-order it right here, right? It's like a Kickstarter way to fund a movie. But, which, by the way, Kickstarters can fund movies, and they funded some pretty damn good ones. Loved Kung Fury. But, so yeah, it's kind of like, but it's only funny because it's coming from Disney. So it's one of those things where even if so many fans came out of the woodwork to say, please, Disney, make a sequel, can they be relied on to go see the movie the week that it comes out? especially if it is, up against some stiff competition. And usually with how many movies are coming out nowadays that have these blockbuster budgets that are based on either Godzilla or other type of, tokusatsu, Marvel movies, DC movies, other comic book movies. So many movies are coming out nowadays that, can you rely on people to go see it, even if they say, no, 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 we're going to go see it? And that's something that Disney has to think about. So it's a sad thing. If you're listening to this or watching this on our YouTube channel, those guys on the radio, please comment down below on your thoughts about this. Do you think that it'll get a sequel? Do you want it to get a sequel? And do you think that John Landau's tactics are going to work? I don't, for the reasons that I've laid out. But again, tell me what you guys think about this in the comment section down below.